welcome back to Randy's Cycle Service. We're located in Everett, Washington, and we are the world's smallest motorcycle repair shop. Our shop is 12 feet wide and about 16 feet long. Today what we're going to do, we're going to go over the Virago starting problem. Okay? Now, if you're wondering why all this background noise, we're right on the main street here, which is the biggest street in Everett, Washington, called Brooklyn. So anyway, what we're going to do is when we go to start a clutch, we're just not going to fix the problem. We're going to actually show you what the problem is. Okay? So, the Viragos, the real problem is that they copy Harley too much. Okay? And they actually, instead of putting in a starter clutch, they put in a Bendix. And what this Bendix does is basically throws a gear out against the flywheel. Okay? And then after it hits it, it turns so that the teeth on the gear lock into the flywheel and turn it. Okay? Now compared to a starter clutch on a Honda, Suzuki, Kawasaki, Yamaha, which is normal, okay? At least for me it's normal. This is a royal pain in the butt. Now, if this looks familiar to you, then you're watching the right video here. What we have here is a Virago. This is a 750, and down here in this section right here, this is where the problem lies. Okay? Now, what we're going to do, we're taking off the cover. Okay? Taking off this cover. I've taken off the air box. I've loosened up the toolbox so I can get the cover totally, unplug it and get the cover totally out of here. I just want it totally out of here so you can actually see what's going on. There's another video on YouTube. You can't really see what's going on. That's why I'm doing this one. I want you to know exactly what the problem is. And the problem is this gear right here. Now, what we're looking at here is directly into the Bendix. Okay? Now, I've rebuilt dozens and dozens of these over the years, but I've never really asked myself, what's this thing doing? Okay, I just bought the parts, put them in, they work, and went down the road. But this one came in a box, and as I'm starting to rebuild it, I start asking myself some questions. For instance, let's take a screwdriver here and show you. What is this spring here for? Okay, it's actually a spring, and what it does, it goes around the end of the starter, and it comes up, and it's in this little slot right here. And there's another one right here. There's another one right here on the end of this gear. Now, we're going to take this gear out in a few minutes, and we're going to take it out to a quieter place, and I'm going to show you how all this works. But it took me a while to figure this out. I called around to a number of places, and nobody really knew what this did and what this spring here did. They said, oh, you got to have them or it wouldn't work, but they couldn't tell me exactly what it was. So what this spring here does is, these are brakes. Real simple. The starter turns, okay, it turns this back here, and when it does, this gear here is on a spline, and it gets thrown out, and it grabs a hold of this gear right there. This is your flywheel, okay? When this engages there, it turns this, and that's what cranks over your motor, because this is the crank over here. Can we see this? Let me move the camera over here. This is your crank, okay? Now, so what happens is the power comes from the starter, goes through here, through this gear, spins this gear, that gear throws this gear out because it's on a spline, okay? It engages with this gear, okay? And it turns. Now, when you let go of the starter button, the starter motor slows down, and when it gets down to a certain speed, this acts as a brake and stops the starter motor, which takes the pressure off this gear right here. Okay, it takes the pressure off this gear. I'll move my finger over here and see the whole thing. Hand won't be in the way. So it takes the pressure off this gear. Then what happens, this spring here does the same thing to this gear. It acts as a brake, slows it down so it can disengage, because there's a spring right here. See the spring right here? Okay, I'll show you that later. There's a spring right down this hole right here. And that pushes that back. So these are just brakes. Now, the problem this system has, and it's inherent to almost all the Viragos, is that one, this face right here, you see it's nice and shiny? It smashes into the back of this piece. Okay, it literally flies out here, smashes in here. You can feel the back of this is rough. Smashes into here, turns, and then slips into the slot. Now, compared to a starter clutch on, let's say, a Honda, Suzuki, Kawasaki, Yamaha, this is like antique stuff. Okay, this is like the stuff on your car where the starter smashes in. Okay, so just to go through this one more time, make it perfectly clear as I can. The power comes from the starter. This pin here acts as a brake. Okay, this turns that one. This throws out, engages this, and then the problem we have is when it's disengaging. This spring here, the clip they call it, and on the other video they had what they call a power clip, but a brand new clip will work just fine. Basically slows the gear down so it can disengage and the spring can push it back. Now, the problem is, again, this is tore up, okay? It's having problems smashing into here. This spring right here gets weak, and that one gets weak, and then what happens is it won't disengage, and it'll sit here on the edge, and it'll just grind its butt off, okay? Now what we're going to do is we're going to pull this out of here, okay? I'm going to pull this out of here, and the easiest way to take it out of here is just pull the pin out. If we can get ourselves a set of fingers here. Just pull this pin out, and the whole thing will come apart. Now, if you took the cover off and it fell apart, then that's what you're going to end up having, is something that looks like this. Now, once you got that out of there, another thing to take a look at is right down here, this is a magnet. And the question is, why is this magnet right below this assembly? This starter, I don't want to call it starter clutch, it's a Bendix. This Bendix thing. Because when they built this, they knew they were going to grind the snot out of this, okay? They knew this thing was going to come out ground all the pieces. And so what this magnet here is for is to catch the metal particles that fall out of the system. In other words, it's like the worst starting system on the planet, okay? Before we start showing you everything about that Bendix, I want to do a quick plug on our book, How to Get Your Motorcycle Up and Running Shop Now for all years, makes, and models. People are asking if they have, let's say, Kawasaki manual, why do they need this manual? Well, the answer to that question is we have inside the book, let's see, this is page 18. What we do here, if you see that, we show the service manual shaking hands with our manual. So we're not in competition with these. You have, if you have a lot of detailed work you want to do your bike, you need a service manual. Okay? Now, why our book? Because our book does what the service manual doesn't. You take your service manual and you slap this on top of it. You can glue it right to the top of your service manual, but I wouldn't. Because what this is going to do is give you everything that your service manual, like your climber, your Haynes, your service manual, isn't going to give you. It's going to tell you all the details on how to take a non-running motorcycle and get it running. It's going to teach you how to keep that motorcycle up and running. Okay? And it's got a, here's what, you ever notice this doesn't have an attitude? It's just blah. This has an attitude. This is where you get your attitude. And the attitude is you can do it. And we're going to show you how. We're going to take step by step and show you how. Now, another thing that we do that nobody else on the planet does is when you go to our website at getitrunning.com and you purchase this manual, you're also going to get something else that nobody else is going to give you. You're going to get our cell phone number. So if you don't understand the manual, if you need some help, if you're stuck, you can give us a call. And for free, because you bought the manual from us, we'll tell you how to fix it. Okay, but we want you to go through and read the whole manual first and understand your service, your manual, the regular manual for your motorcycle from Honda, Kawasaki, Suzuki, Harley, BMW, BSA, doesn't matter who it comes from. You need to understand what you're going to be doing on your manual, and you also need to read the section in this manual that's going to go over whatever it is you're working on. Okay? How to get your motorcycle up and running. It's a shop manual for all years, makes, and models. So that means if I have 100 manuals, I only need one copy of this one. It'll go on any manual. Okay?